Seriously, Disney Channel might seem all sunshine and rainbows and talking animals, but sometimes when a bad guy meets their end, things get dark. We've got falls, we've got crushing, we've got, well, you'll see. All right, let's kick things off with the ones who saw the light. Or, were forced to see the light, or kind of just stumbled into being not so evil anymore. It's not always about a big, flashy, gruesome end. Sometimes the biggest twist is a villain turning into, well, a good guy, or at least a not so bad guy. Let's get into it. First up, from the Proud family, we have the one and only Gross sisters, Nubia, Gina, and Oli Gross. Their whole vibe was just blue, literally. Their skin was blue because their family was too poor to afford lotion, and they worked out in the sun all day. That is some seriously tragic backstory right there. Their entire business model was hands up, cash out. They'd roll up on you looking all intimidating in their overalls and just demand your money. Nubia was the leader, the only one who actually talked, and she treated her own sisters like trash. Gina, the oldest but smallest, was the silent money collector, always with her hand out. And Oli, the youngest but biggest, was the sweet one who was just kinda dragged along into the family business of bullying. But by the time we get to Louder and Prouder, they've done a total 180. They've left the bullying game behind and are now full-blown musical artists. They started their own record label, and it's called Hands Up Cash Out Records. That is branding, people. Gina's a beatboxer, Oli's on backup vocals, and Nubia is the lead singer. They still have that intimidating vibe, for sure, but now instead of demanding your cash, they're looking for you to invest in their music. And you know what? They're actually shown to have a heart. Nubia gets fiercely protective of her sisters, like when KG made Oli cry. She was ready to throw down. So, did they meet a gruesome end? Not even close. They got something better, a record deal and a second chance. Next, let's talk about the man, the myth, the legend of ineptitude, Dr. Heinz Doofenshmirtz from Phineas and Ferb. This guy's entire evil career was basically a series of therapy sessions broadcast to the entire tri-state area. His tragic backstory is being unloved by his parents, who forced him to be a lawn gnome, constantly outshone by his perfect brother Roger, and his only friend was a balloon named Balloony. It's no wonder he snapped and decided to conquer the tri-state area. But let's be real, his version of conquering was usually just solving a minor personal annoyance with a giant machine called an Inator. He wasn't evil, he was just extra. His relationship with his nemesis, Perry the Platypus, was less of a rivalry and more of a codependent friendship. Doofenshmirtz literally couldn't function without Perry there to thwart him. He'd chase him down, begging to be thwarted. And Perry? He'd save Doof's life on the regular when his Inators inevitably backfired. These two were total frenemies. But the thing that puts him on this redemption list is his love for his daughter, Vanessa. He would drop everything for her. He even tried to give up his evil ways for her sake. In the finale, Last Day of Summer, he does just that. To let Vanessa get an internship at Auka, the good guy agency, he willingly gives up his life of evil. He even saves the world from a real villain, Rodney, who wanted to start a new ice age. He ends the original series just chilling with Vanessa, Perry, and Norm, having muffins. No gruesome death for him, just a long, weird, and ultimately heartwarming journey to becoming a decent dad. Speaking of complicated villains, let's get into the world of Kim Possible and talk about the iconic duo Shego and Dr. Draken. First, Shego. Seriously, was there anyone cooler on the Disney Channel? That green and black cat suit, the sarcastic attitude, the glowing green plasma hands, she was everything. She started out as a hero, part of Team Go with her brothers, but they annoyed her so much she was like, you know what? Evil seems way more fun. And honestly, can you blame her? She was a professional. She had skills. She was an expert in martial arts, infiltration, and had a degree in child development of all things. But she was stuck playing second fiddle to Dr. Draken, a dude whose skin was blue, for reasons even he wasn't sure about. It happened on a Tuesday. Draken was the textbook definition of a bumbling mad scientist. He was all about world domination, but his plans were usually petty and driven by jealousy. He was terrified of Shego after one particular incident with a mind control chip went wrong, and for good reason. Shego knew she was the brains and the muscle of the operation. She'd roll her eyes at his dumb plans, file her nails, and then go beat up Kim Possible when things went south. But deep down, there was a spark of good in her. In the series finale, Graduation, when actual alien warlords, Warhawk and Warmongers, show up to conquer Earth for real, Shego and Draken step up. They team up with Kim and Ron, and this is where it gets crazy. Draken, for once in his life, comes up with a genuinely brilliant plan. He uses a plant mutagen he created to take out the entire alien fleet, and Shego is impressed. Genuinely impressed. After all those years of failure, her blue doofus actually saved the world. The final shot of them shows them caught in one of his new plant vines, smiling nervously at each other. They became a couple, a redeemed, world-saving, supervillain couple. No death, just a happily ever after that nobody saw coming. And how can we talk about redemption without shouting out, Lord Hater from Wander Over Yonder? This guy was supposed to be the greatest villain in the galaxy. He's a giant skeleton dude with lightning powers, a skull ship, and an army of watchdogs. He's power-hungry, short-tempered, and screams like a petulant child. His whole goal is galactic domination, but he gets so easily distracted by Wander, the fuzzy orange guy who just wants to be his friend. Hater despises Wander's optimism. It drives him absolutely bonkers. Yet despite being the supposedly ultimate evil, he's just so immature. His right-hand man, Commander Peepers, basically has to babysit him. Hater is also super awkward around women, which is both hilarious and kinda sad. But his big moment comes with the arrival of Lord Dominator. She is a real villain. She's not trying to rule the galaxy, she wants to destroy it. And Hater? Well, at first, he gets a massive one-sided crush on her. It's embarrassing to watch, but when he finally realizes she's pure evil and wants to wipe out everything, Hater steps up. He uses his anger and desire to protect everyone to generate a force field big enough to save a planet from Dominator's drill. He becomes the hero. He fights her, head on, not for power or glory, but because it's the right thing to do. In the end, he's the one who defeats Dominator. It's an incredible arc. He's still a grumpy, loud skeleton man, but he's their grumpy, loud skeleton man. Let's jump over to Gravity Falls and talk about the one, the only Lil Gideon Gleeful. Oh, this kid was a menace. A tiny, adorable, psychic charlatan with a giant white pompadour and an obsession with Mabel Pines. He used his cuteness as a weapon, manipulating the entire town of Gravity Falls into thinking he was a sweet, gifted child. But behind the scenes, total sociopath. He was power-hungry, abusive to his terrified parents, and willing to do anything to get what he wanted, which was the Mystery Shack and Mabel as his queen. He even had Journal Hash too. This kid was playing for keeps. He tried to murder Dipper. He summoned a literal dream demon, Bill Cipher, and he even built a giant robot version of himself to terrorize the Pines family. He ends season 1 getting arrested, exposed as a fraud, and swearing revenge. And for a while, it seems like that's his path. He's in jail, still scheming, but then Weird Mageddon happens. Bill Cipher breaks him out and makes him the sheriff of his apocalyptic playground, in charge of guarding Mabel's prison bubble. This is his dream come true, right? He has Mabel all to himself. But this is where the change happens. Dipper confronts him, you can't force someone to love you. And Gideon, faced with the choice of helping the literal apocalypse demon or doing the right thing, actually listens. He knows Bill will destroy him for it, but he lets Dipper go free Mabel. He chooses to fight back. In the finale, he joins the resistance, helps form the Zodiac to fight Bill, and after it's all over, he actually apologizes. He shows up to Dipper and Mabel's birthday party, a changed kid. He's still got a bit of an edge. He has his gang beat up a kid for making fun of his skateboarding, but hey, baby steps. He went from trying to kill the Pines to helping save the world from a chaos god. That's a win in my book. From the world of Amphibia, we have the colossal king Andreas Leviathan. When we first meet him, he seems awesome. He's this huge, jolly salamander king who befriends Marcy, plays games with her, and seems like a genuinely cool ruler. He's charming, he's funny, and he promises to help the girls get home. It's all a lie, a massive 1,000-year-old lie. Andreas is actually a manipulative, megalomaniacal tyrant working for the core, a hive mind of his evil ancestors, with plans to conquer the entire multiverse. He saw Marcy's loneliness and desperation and used it, twisted it to serve his own ends. The moment he reveals his true colors is one of the most shocking in Disney Channel history. He drops Sprig from his castle window, even when Marcy tries to stop him. It is brutal. For a long time, he is the ultimate villain. He's driven by a bitter past where he believes his best friends betrayed him and stole the Calamity Box. He's hypocritical, cruel, and completely ruthless. But there are cracks in the facade. We see him hesitate when the core wants to use Marcy as a host. We see his genuine pain. And in the final season, we learn the truth. His friends didn't betray him. They saw the darkness his father was pushing him towards and tried to save him. When Sprig shows him a letter from his long-lost friend Leif, Andreas just breaks. He realizes he was wrong. He spent 1,000 years hating himself, burying his feelings, and pushing everyone away for a cause he never truly believed in. When the Corps tries to force him to fight Anne, he refuses. He lets Anne defeat him, telling her to go save Marcy. In the end, he actively fights against the Corps, using his robots to help the heroes. He accepts his punishment, helping to rebuild Amphibia as a simple farmer, atoning for a millennium of pain he caused. It's a tragic, powerful, and unforgettable redemption. Now, let's talk about a villain whose story is all about tragedy. Robert Callahan, aka Yokai from Big Hero 6. This one hits hard, guys. We meet him as this brilliant, inspiring professor at the San Francisco Institute of Technology. He's the guy who motivates Hiro Hamada to use his genius for good. He's warm, he's kind, he's a mentor. Then, the fire at the showcase. Tadashi, Hiro's brother, runs in to save Callahan and dies in the explosion. It's heartbreaking, and for a while, we think Callahan died too. But then this mysterious, silent villain in a kabuki mask shows up, controlling Hiro's microbots. This is Yokai. He's relentless and powerful. Hiro and his friends form Big Hero 6 to stop him, believing he's just a common criminal who stole the microbots. But the truth is so much worse. Yokai is Callahan. He didn't die in the fire. He started the fire to fake his death and steal the microbots. When Hiro confronts him, enraged that Tadashi died for nothing, Callahan's response is ice cold. That was his mistake. That is pure villainy. Hiro, in a moment of pure grief and rage, orders Baymax to kill him. It's one of the darkest moments in a Disney movie. But what drove this mentor, this genius, to become a monster? Vengeance. His daughter, Abigail, was a test pilot for a teleportation project run by the slick tech mogul Alistair Cray. Cray pushed forward with the test, despite the risks, and Abigail was lost in the portal, presumed dead. Callahan's grief consumed him. It twisted him into a man who would sacrifice anything, even an innocent life like Tadashi's, to get revenge on the man he blamed. But here's the redemption. After being defeated just before he's arrested, Baymax detects life in the portal. Abigail is alive. Hiro saves her. And in that moment, seeing his daughter safe, Callahan's face just crumples. All that rage, all that destruction, it was for nothing. In the sequel series, we see him in prison, and he is filled with remorse. He apologizes to Hiro, thanking him for saving his daughter, and expressing true sorrow for Tadashi's death. He knows he can't be forgiven, but he's no longer the monster. He's just a man broken by grief who finally found his way back. Last but not least on our redemption tour, we've got Doofus Drake from the DuckTales reboot. Now, if you remember the original show, Doofus was just Launchpad's sweet, kind of dim-witted sidekick. The reboot went in a different direction, a terrifying direction. This version of Doofus is a rich, spoiled, psycho heir who literally turned his own parents into his personal servants. He's creepy, he's controlling, and he's obsessed with Louie Duck. When his beloved Gummy Mama passed away and left him her fortune, he went full-on horror movie villain. He traps Louie in his mansion, torments his parents, and his parties are basically tests of loyalty that end with guests being dropped into honey bins filled with bees. His whole arc is being Louie's personal nemesis, a kid so messed up and entitled that he makes you genuinely uncomfortable. In the episode, Happy Birthday, Doofus Drake, he tries to force Goldie O'Gilt to be his new Goldie Mama. It's nuts. But then we get to The Life and Crimes of Scrooge McDuck. Doofus is the prosecuting attorney in a celestial court, trying to sue Scrooge for creating all his enemies. His real motive is to get revenge on Louie. It looks like he's about to win as a forever villain, but then Louie apologizes sincerely. He tells Doofus he's sorry for what happened at his birthday party and that he doesn't want a lifetime rivalry, and Doofus just hugs him. It turns out all he really wanted was a genuine apology. He drops the whole case and walks away. It's a wild, weird, and surprisingly sweet redemption. Okay, so not every villain gets a redemption arc, but not every villain gets disintegrated either. This next batch of villains, they got off easy. Maybe they lost their powers, maybe they got a job they hate, or maybe they just got sent to a timeout. Whatever the case, they're still breathing, which is more than we can say for the guys coming up later. Let's start with the Queen of Schemes herself, Magika Dispel from the DuckTales reboot. This version of Magika is a straight-up nightmare. She's got this creepy British accent, green-blue feathers, and an epic grudge against Scrooge McDuck. 15 years before the show, she fought Scrooge, and he trapped her inside his #1 dime. Can you imagine? Trapped in a coin for over a decade, her only connection to the outside world was through her shadow, which she turned into a niece named Lena. Her whole goal was to use a lunar eclipse to escape and get her revenge, and she does it. In the Season 1 finale, The Shadow War, she escapes, traps Scrooge in the dime, takes over his money bin, and turns all of Duckburg's shadows into her personal army. It's terrifying. She is at the peak of her power, but of course the McDuck kids foil her plans. They free Scrooge, and in the final battle, she loses her magic. all of it. She's turned into a normal, powerless duck with a massive ego and a burning hatred for Scrooge. That's a pretty big fall from grace. She ends up working at a kids' party place called Funso's Fun Zone, doing lame magic tricks. Humiliating. She gets her powers back later thanks to Lena, but she's still ultimately defeated. In the end, after Fowl is taken down, she just teleports away. Considering she tried to enslave an entire city, that's getting off pretty light. Next from the Owl House, let's talk about the ultimate suck-up, Kikimora. Kiki was Emperor Bellowos' power-hungry, backstabbing assistant. She was tiny, but her ambition was huge. Her entire life revolved around trying to get a promotion and become Bellowos' right hand. She was constantly plotting against the Golden Guard, aka Hunter, trying to assassinate him just to make herself look better. She was conniving, arrogant, and had zero loyalty to anyone but herself and her career goals. She betrayed Luce, she tried to kill Amity, she was just the worst. But her devotion to Bellowos was her undoing. She did everything he asked, no matter how horrible, hoping for that big promotion. And what did she get? In the final days, Bellowos looks her dead in the eye and says he'd rather suffer than give her a promotion, and tells her to go find a hole to rot in. Ouch! So what does she do? She helps King release the Collector, purely out of spite to get back at Bellowos. During the Collector's reign, she even tries to set up her own little empire at Hexside, manipulating Boscha. But in the end, after all that scheming and betrayal and attempted murder, she gets community service. We see her in the epilogue helping to rebuild the library, being supervised by Bartholomew. From almost being the second in command of a genocidal tyrant to being forced to do construction work as punishment. Yeah, Kiki got off incredibly easy. Let's travel to Agrabah for this next one. The one, the only, Abismal from the Aladdin TV series. This guy is the definition of a wannabe. He's supposed to be one of Aladdin's main recurring villains, his second arch nemesis. But honestly, he's just bad at it. He's greedy, selfish, and childish, but he has absolutely no follow-through. He had an army of loyal henchmen, way more than Aladdin ever did as a thief, but he treated them all like garbage. His plans were sometimes genius on paper, but his own silliness would always ruin them. He even got his hands on a genie twice, and both times he completely fumbled the opportunity. The guy is a walking failure. He's more of a persistent annoyance than a genuine threat. He's constantly trying to get rich or powerful, but it never ever works out. Because he was a recurring villain who never really posed a major world-ending threat, he never got a major world-ending punishment. He just kept showing up, failing, and presumably getting away to fail another day. Over to the Phineas and Ferb universe, we've got the alien poacher, Mitch. This guy was the arch nemesis of Meat, the adorable little alien crime fighter. Mitch's whole deal was flying around the galaxy, capturing rare and exotic aliens for his private collection. He even captured Doofenshmirtz's beloved balloon, Balloony. In his first appearance, he's this big, intimidating dude in a robot suit. He's got an army of Mitchbots and a space station full of trapped creatures. It's pretty sinister stuff. But then we find out the truth. Mitch is the same species as Meep. He's a tiny, cute alien piloting a giant mech because he wants to use a substance called Cutonium to become the most adorable being in the universe. So everyone will have to obey him. It's a bizarrely narcissistic plan. But every time he shows up, he gets defeated. And what's his punishment? He gets sent to timeout, a literal timeout. In his final appearance, he's scamming alien tourists. And after being exposed, his own wife, who happens to be an Alliance commander, takes him into custody. So after all his poaching, kidnapping, and attempts at universe-wide mind control through cuteness, his ultimate fate is getting grounded by his wife. That is the definition of getting off easy. Let's talk about Nega Duck from Darkwing Duck. This guy is the polar opposite of our hero. He's Darkwing's evil counterpart from the Negaverse, and he is pure chaos. He's homicidal, psychotic, and loves violence for the sake of violence. Chainsaws and shotguns are his favorite accessories. He leads the Fearsome Five, but not through respect, through fear. He hates everything good and wholesome. Bunnies, flowers, you name it. His primary goal in life is to destroy Darkwing Duck and cause as much mayhem as possible. He's actually more level-headed and cunning than the real Darkwing, which makes him incredibly dangerous. He loves to disguise himself as Darkwing to ruin his reputation. He believes he should be the one true version in the multiverse, and that insecurity fuels his murderous rage. He once even stole the powers of the entire Fearsome Five to become Mega Nega Duck. But for all his talk and all his attempts at murder and destruction, he's a recurring villain. He never truly gets a final, definitive punishment. He's always out there, ready to pop back up and cause more trouble. For a guy who wants to literally murder the main character, never being permanently put down is a pretty sweet deal. Finally, in this category, we have the most hamster-like villain of them all, Dr. Jacques von Hamsterville from the Lilo and Stitch franchise. This little rodent dude is pure ego. He's a disgraced scientist and Jumba's former partner who funded the creation of all 625 experiments with his shady business deals. His goal is to use those experiments to take over the galaxy. He's got a classic Napoleon complex, constantly throwing tantrums like a spoiled child when he doesn't get his way. He's incredibly abusive to his henchman, Gantu, constantly insulting him and giving him no credit. He is just a nasty, vain, vituperative little fluffball of evil. In Leroy and Stitch, he finally gets his wish. He forces Jumba to create a new, more powerful experiment, Leroy, and then clones him into an army. With his Leroy army, he thinks he's won. He even callously fires Gantu, but his arrogance is his downfall. Gantu, Lilo, Stitch, and all the other 624 experiments team up and defeat his army. And what happens to the mastermind, the evil genius who almost conquered the galaxy? The experiments toss him around like a beach ball before he's sent back to a galactic prison. His final fate is being locked in a cell, surrounded by hundreds of Leroy clones who just dance to Jailhouse Rock for all eternity. It's annoying, it's humiliating, but it's not death. For a guy like Hamsterville, that's getting off pretty darn easy. Okay, now we're getting into the truly dark stuff. Redemption is nice, getting off easy is lucky, but this is a whole other level of punishment. These villains didn't die. Instead, they were left in a state of eternal torment, stripped of their very identities, or doomed to a loneliness so profound it's a prison in itself. This is where it gets chilling. Let's start with the original tragic gargoyle, Demona. For 1,000 years, this woman has been driven by one thing: pure hatred for humanity. And why? Because of guilt. 1,000 years ago, she betrayed her own clan, a choice that led directly to their massacre. Instead of facing that guilt, she projected it outward, blaming every single human for her pain. She spent a millennium scheming, manipulating, and trying to wipe humanity off the face of the planet. She's brilliant, a skilled sorceress taught by the Archmage himself, and a master of both ancient magic and modern technology. She's a force to be reckoned with. But here's her curse. In her quest for power, she was bound by a spell from the Weird Sisters. She was granted immortality, but it came with a catch, a horrifying catch. She is magically linked to her mortal enemy, the Gargoyle Hunter Macbeth. She can only die if he kills her, or if she kills him. So what is her fate? To live forever, to watch the world she hates continue to thrive, to be forever alone, having betrayed every ally she ever had, to be haunted by the ghosts of her clan, knowing she was responsible for their deaths. She can never find peace, never age, never die, unless it's at the hands of the one man who represents the Hunter legacy she helped create. That's an eternal, walking damnation, a true fate worse than death. And speaking of eternal loneliness, let's talk about Lord Dominator from Wander Over Yonder. Hater was a joke, but Dominator was the real deal. A tall, punk rock alien with magma and ice powers. She wasn't interested in ruling the galaxy. She wanted to destroy it, planet by planet. Why? For the thrill. She told Wander herself that she just enjoys crushing people's hopes and dreams. She finds barrenness and bleakness beautiful. That is a level of nihilism that is genuinely terrifying. She's manipulative, cruel, and unbelievably powerful. She defeats every other villain in the galaxy and takes them prisoner. She tricks Hater, mocks him, and laughs in his face. She is the ultimate bad guy. She comes so close to winning. She destroys almost every planet, leaving nothing but dust in her wake. But then she's defeated by the one person she never took seriously, Lord Hater, powered by the love and support of the people he was protecting. Her ship is destroyed, her powers are gone, and she is left with nothing. The galaxy she loved to destroy is gone. The one thing that gave her a thrill is no longer possible. Wander sees the truth. She is just lonely, utterly and completely alone. He offers her his friendship, a real connection, something she's never had, and she rejects it. She can't comprehend it. Her entire identity is built on being the bad guy, on being alone. So she's left floating in the void, with nothing to destroy and no one to connect with, vowing a revenge she has no means to carry out. An eternity of empty, silent, self-inflicted misery. That's a fate far darker than any quick death. Let's head back to Duckburg for our next victim, director Bradford Buzzard from the DuckTales reboot. This guy was the ultimate man behind the curtain. On the surface, he was just the boring, cheap chairman of McDuck Enterprises board of directors, constantly telling Scrooge to spend less money. But in reality, he was the founder and leader of the evil organization Fowl, a sadistic, ruthless, and corrupt mastermind plotting to take over the world by eliminating adventure itself. His evil came from a place of trauma. His grandmother, the famous explorer Isabella Finch, dragged him on dangerous adventures as a kid, and instead of instilling a love of discovery, it filled him with a deep-seated hatred for chaos. He believed adventure was the enemy of order. His plan was diabolical. He wanted to use ancient artifacts like the Papyrus of Binding and the Solego Circuit to erase adventure from existence, even if it meant erasing people from existence. He was willing to kill children, betray his own agents, and destroy Scrooge's family to achieve his orderly world. He was a hypocrite of the highest order, decrying villainy while being the biggest villain of them all. In the final battle, he uses the Sword of Swanstein and is transformed into a monstrous version of himself. But his plan fails, and his punishment? Oh, it's poetic. Magika Dispel, one of the villains he captured and used, gets her revenge. She uses her powerful magic on him, and with a final furious cry, she doesn't kill him. She turns him into a normal, mindless buzzard. All his intelligence, his scheming, his ambition, his very identity, gone. Wiped clean. He's reduced to a simple animal, doomed to live out his days as a scavenger, completely unaware of the global conspiracy he once commanded. A truly horrifying fate. And speaking of being turned into a bird, let's talk about Magika's brother, Poe Dispel. In the 2017 DuckTales reboot, Poe wasn't a raven to begin with. He was a duck, a sorcerer just like his twin sister, Magika. They were a team, ruling a village together through fear and magic. Poe was the calmer of the two, but just as sadistic and greedy. He was a narcissist, but he loved his sister more than anything. This love would be his undoing. During their first encounter with a young Scrooge McDuck, a furious Magika fires a powerful spell at him. Scrooge, using his wits, reflects it right back at her. Poe, seeing his sister in danger, does the only thing he can. He shoves her out of the way and takes the full blast himself. The spell transformed him. He became a simple, non-sentient raven. His mind, his memories, his love for his sister, his entire consciousness, all of it was gone. He flew away, unable to even recognize the sister who was screaming his name, begging Scrooge for help. Scrooge refused. Magika's hatred for Scrooge was born in that moment, but Poe's fate was sealed. He's out there somewhere, living the life of a common animal, with no idea who or what he once was. That is chilling to the core. Our final stop in this Hall of Horrors is back in Gravity Falls, with the leader of the Blind Eye Society, Blind, Ivan Wexler. This guy's story starts with him being bullied as a carny. The trauma was so bad, he just wanted to forget. That's how he found the Blind Eye Society, a secret group dedicated to erasing the memories of the supernatural weirdness in Gravity Falls using a special memory gun. But under Ivan's leadership, the society became more malicious. When the Pines kids, Suze, and Wendy discover them, Ivan's plan is to capture them and wipe their minds of the entire summer, of all their adventures, of each other. He wants to erase them, but he's defeated, and Dipper turns the memory gun on him and the rest of the society because Ivan's entire identity was so wrapped up in the society. Wiping that memory didn't just make him forget a few things, it erased him. He had no idea who he was. So what does Mabel do? In an act of strange kindness, she gives him a new identity. She tells him he's a carefree traveling banjo minstrel named Toot Toot McBummer Snazzle, and he believes her. On the surface, it seems like a happy ending for him. But think about it. The person known as Ivan Wexler is, for all intents and purposes, dead. His personality, his history, his trauma, everything that made him who he was, good and bad, is gone forever, replaced by a cheerful fiction, a fate arguably worse than death. All right, you've been patient. We've seen redemption. We've seen karmic punishment. We've seen fates that make you shudder. But now, these are the villains who didn't get a second chance. They didn't get a slap on the wrist. They met their end in ways that are straight up gruesome. Let's do this. First on the chopping block is the Huntsman from American Dragon, Jake Long. This dude was the leader of the Hunts clan, a secret society of dragon slayers, and he was Jake's #1 enemy. His backstory is brutal. As a teenager, he was a scrawny apprentice who got bullied. Trying to prove himself, he took on a mission and ended up in a fight with a time-traveling Jake Long. Jake knocked him into a pit with a feral dragon that had already killed 2 adult Hunts clan members. The kid barely survived but was maimed and disfigured for life. This trauma twisted him, filled him with a genocidal hatred for all magical creatures, especially dragons. He rose through the ranks to become the Huntsmaster, a menacing, callous, and horrifyingly murderous leader. He even kidnapped his apprentice, Rose as an infant and raised her to believe dragons had killed her parents. His ultimate plan was to use the mystical Aztec skulls to wish for the death of all magical creatures in the world. He forces Rose to go along with it, threatening to kill her real parents if she refuses. He captures Jake, he assembles the skulls, he begins the wish. And then Rose, his own apprentice, whom he raised, attacks him from behind and knocks him unconscious. And then she finishes the wish. But she doesn't wish for the death of magical creatures. She wishes for the death of the Hunts clan, all of them. And what happens next is insane. Every member of the Hunts clan is lifted into the air, kicking and screaming as their birthmarks glow. Then, lightning from the sky vaporizes them. And the Huntsman, he's unconscious. He doesn't even see it coming. He's the last to go. His body zapped out of existence, with nothing left behind but his cape, a silent, swift, and total annihilation. That's a dark way to go. Next up, we have the dashingly evil teenage sorcerer from the Aladdin series, Mosenrath. This guy was the real deal, a worthy successor to Jafar. He was the ruler of the land of the black sand, and his power was immense. Iago even called him Jafar Jr. He was cruel, arrogant, and incredibly intelligent, with a dark sense of humor and a flair for the dramatic. He was the total opposite of Aladdin, frail and pale where Aladdin was athletic, a schemer where Aladdin was quick-thinking. His ambition was to take over the 7 deserts and eventually the world. He was a master of all forms of magic, teleportation, necromancy, alchemy, you name it. He was easily on the same power level as the genie, but that power came at a terrible, gruesome cost. The source of his incredible might was a magical gauntlet he wore on his right arm. This gauntlet gave him untold power, but it was also killing him, slowly, painfully. Every time he used it, it drained his life force, rotting his own flesh away. His entire right arm, under that gauntlet, was nothing but bare skeletal bone. He sacrificed his own body, his own life, for power. He was literally being consumed by his own ambition. He was doomed to a premature demise. So while we don't see a single moment of death, his fate is a slow, agonizing decay. Gruesome doesn't even begin to cover it. Now for one of the biggest, baddest, most irredeemable villains in Disney history, Emperor Bellowos, aka Philip Whittabane from the Owl House. This guy played the long game like a 400-year long game. He was originally a human witch hunter from the 1600s who followed his brother, Caleb, into the demon realm. When Caleb fell in love with a witch, Philip, in a fit of zealous rage, murdered his own brother. That's how his story starts, with fratricide. Stranded in a world he despised, he made a deal with the chaotic child god, the Collector, to gain immense magical power. He disguised himself as a witch named Bellowos, created a false history, and lied to the entire Boiling Isles. Claiming he could speak to the Titan, he established the Coven system, promising order and prosperity, but it was all a lie. His true goal was to enact the draining spell on the Day of Unity, a genocidal ritual that would kill every single witch and demon on the Isles. Also, he could be hailed as a hero back in the human world he hadn't seen in centuries. He is a master manipulator, a narcissist with a messiah complex, and a complete hypocrite who used the very magic he claimed to hate to keep himself alive for centuries by consuming the souls of countless palismen. His love for his nephew Hunter was just a twisted desire to control a clone of the brother he murdered. When his plan is finally set in motion, he's betrayed by the Collector, who he himself betrayed first. The Collector splatters his physical body against a wall with a single flick, but he doesn't die. He survives as a disgusting green sludge-like creature. He possesses Hunter, he possesses Rain, and he eventually makes his way back to the demon realm and fuses with the heart of the dead Titan, becoming a colossal dragon-like monster, intent on consuming the entire island. But Luce and her friends manage to literally rip him out of the Titan's heart, and his body can no longer hold a stable form. He melts, he contorts, he reverts to his pathetic human form, begging Luce for mercy and spewing his hateful ideology. And when she refuses, he dissolves into a shrieking, writhing pile of goop. And then Ada, King, and Rain, without a moment's hesitation, just stomp on him over and over until he's nothing but a smear on the ground. It is one of the most brutal, visceral, and well-deserved deaths in all of animation. Good riddance. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for. The most chaotic, most powerful, most terrifyingly gruesome end of them all. Let's talk about the Dream Demon, the Triangle Guy, the Master of the Weird, Bill Cipher. This guy was a two-dimensional being who destroyed his own dimension just because he was bored and thought it was funny. His ultimate goal was to merge the nightmare realm with our reality to start Weirdmageddon, an endless, twisted party of chaos. where he ruled supreme over the entire multiverse. He was a master manipulator, a charming and funny con artist who would make a deal with you and then twist it to his own horrifying advantage in a heartbeat. He could enter your mind, control your body, and warp reality itself. He saw killing kids as a fun prank and planetary destruction as a game. In the series finale, he shatters the rift between worlds and brings Weirdmageddon to Gravity Falls. He defeats the Time Baby, turns the citizens to stone to build a throne of human agony, and captures Ford Pines to try and learn how to escape Gravity Falls' weirdness bubble and spread his madness across the globe. He seems unbeatable, but the Pines family comes up with one last desperate plan. They trick him. They get him to enter Stan Pines' mind, believing it's Ford's, promising him the equation to escape Gravity Falls. But it's a trap. Once Bill is inside Stan's mindscape, Ford pulls out the memory gun and aims it at Stan's head, ready to erase Stan's entire mind and Bill along with it. What follows is the single most terrifying villain death in Disney history. Bill realizes he's been had, and he panics. He starts glitching, his voice distorting, as he desperately tries to escape. He offers Stan anything, money, fame, his own galaxy. But it's too late, as the memory erasure begins to consume everything. Bill's form contorts violently. He flashes through horrifying shapes, a distorted mess of eyes and limbs, a stone pyramid, his angry red form. In his final moments, he begins speaking backwards, a hidden message that can only be heard when reversed. AXOLOTL, my time has come to burn. I invoke the ancient power that I may return. He's trying to cast a resurrection spell even as he's being wiped from existence. Then, Stan rears back and punches Bill's eye. Bill shatters back into his normal form for one last, silent second, and then he is gone, utterly and completely erased from reality. It is without a doubt the most gruesome, most terrifying, and most epic villain death the Disney Channel has ever shown. It's crazy to think that some of these came from movies and shows we watched as kids, right? Disney Channel definitely doesn't pull all their punches when it comes to the bad guys getting their comeuppance. Which one do you think is the most gruesome?